we have a special guest who, I have to say this young man is, I'm one of his biggest fans, I think, Eddie. So, Mr. Justin Bogard, how are you, sir?
Hey guys, how's it going? Doing great. How are you all doing?
Great. You're wonderful, my friend. And, Eddie, Justin's going to get married here pretty quick after this pandemic thing goes over, and we're going to have and he'll be able to have a public type wedding, right, Justin?
That would be the plan. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very glad for you.
Thank you.
Very glad for you.
Eddie, why don't you run through this with Justin, and let's talk about Justin for a little bit.
Well, so Justin Bogard lives in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I think that's relative to the fact that Justin you'll hear him tell the story of kind of where he does business, and you'll start really realizing that he picked a business that suited him versus trying to go pick a business and suit his life around the business. Justin, I want to talk about that. Tell us your background and how you got started.
Sure. Well, I was watching HGTV a lot in the 2010 past era, just like everybody else, right? You see these people on TV and they're flipping houses and they're doing things and they're working on their house and they make this large sum of money at the end, and you don't see all the stuff that happens in between. And so I was like, yeah, that's for me. That's what I want to do. I like real estate. I bought my own house in 2010. I put a little bit of sweat equity. I'm sorry. Before 2010, I bought a house and then I put sweat equity into it and sold it for a profit within 24 hours. And I thought, there's something to this. I like this. So I invested in myself, took some real estate education courses, and then I learned how to flip and wholesale and landlord and stuff. And I really didn't like it, Eddie. I found out it was pretty darn hard to run a business like that and have systems and deal with contractors and tenants, toilets, and trash. And you know the drill. And then lo and behold, my good friend, Joe Varndor up there in the corner, he came into my local RIA and was talking about investing in mortgage notes. And I'm like, why would someone do that? But I'm curious. I want to hear what he has to say. And he did a presentation. And I remember the one slide that Joe had, it was a guy that was carrying pulling a wheelbarrow full of cash, and he was wearing a suit. And I'm like, man, that's me. That's what I want to do. So I like running the numbers. I like looking at stuff on paper, but I don't really want to swing a hammer if I don't have to. And so this business was very well suited for me. And it gave me a lot of time back too. Once I got into it, I could go pick up my kids from school and drop them off. And I really didn't have to have a set schedule from 9 to 5, so to speak. And kind of that's how I got into the note business. So thank you, Joe.
You're very welcome, Justin. You were one of those guys that you never looked back, right? You never gave up, and you just jumped in there and you did it, man.
Thank you.
I remember, Justin, we were at an event and you were telling the story about the ultimate decision was because of your girls.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could do the business remotely, virtually, and you could pick your schedule and your format, and that way, as you said, you could pick up your girls from school and do all that stuff. And I think a lot of people find themselves in a situation, we want to be entrepreneurs, and then we find out that the job owns us.
Yeah, exactly.
When was that? When did you start with us?
Let's see, 2016 is when I was a member of NoteSchool.
You're a veteran now, dude.
I'm seasoned.
You got a doctorate's degree, don't you?
I like that. I should put that on my email tag, right?
All right. So this is a mystical business, right? Okay. It's kind of a mystical business, and we call it flipping a note. And so how do you do that? Like, what does that look like? How do you go find somebody that owns a note, and how do you get them to call you?
That's a really good question. And so when I was in what's called traditional real estate, when I was wholesaling houses, I would send out direct mail campaigns to people that would have properties that were, they need a lot of TLC, right? That could be desperate to sell. And so I did the similar thing in the model of note investing, to where I was looking for owners of properties that have carried back financing, all recorded with the county. And so I get a list of those names and send out a mail piece, usually a number 10 envelope with a letter inside, and said, hey, my name's Justin. I would like to buy your note. Did you know you could sell it? And so on and so forth. And you would get a call to action where they would pick up the phone and they would dial your number and you'd answer the phone. You'd kind of start the conversation from there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cycle, right? And you use some attractive marketing, and we had tested this a lot. So the time you came along, gosh, I'd dropped 5 million pieces of mail. Right? So I had some idea of how this was going to work.
Right.
And that was good. You didn't have to go test something there. So Joe, you got a slide deck there.
Yep.
Let's look at a real asset.
There you go.
How about a real asset there? So where was that? Justin?
That's in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Fort Wayne, Indiana. And how far is that from you?
That's probably about a 2 hour and 20-minute drive from Indianapolis.
So I assume that you had to go down there and look at the house and do all that stuff, right?
Oh, no, I didn't have to.
You mean you did it virtually?
I did. Actually, I don't even think I ever saw the house except for a picture online.
And so that means that you could market to people in somewhere else in Indiana. You could market to people in Michigan. You could market to people in Arizona. You could market to people in Texas from your living room, so to speak.
Exactly.
From the station headquarters we see here on film, people.
The world headquarters.
World headquarters. That's
Yeah.
right.
That's
All right.
right.
So let's talk about this asset. So this property was seller financed and was sold.
Mm-hmm.
And the loan balance was $61,018. So that was the principal remaining plus interest at 6.5%. Payment is $561, and there were, let's just call it, Justin, about 13 and a half years worth of payments left, right? 164 months, right?
Right.
People in the note business talk in terms of months, not years, because most of the notes are monthly pay and there's a number of payments remaining. So, but look, it was a good asset, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very strong collateral value, and the balance was significantly lower than the value. So you got a lot of protection there.
So you ultimately did it, and the cost on this note, and this was the whole price of the note, right?
To buy the note as is.
Yeah. So how did you, okay, so you got this note, you vetted it, you got some preliminary information. How in the world did you know how to go out and price it?
Well, that's the thing. It's there's no pre-canned response to what the value of a note is, and there's so many different values to a note, as you guys know. With the interest rate, the terms, the paper it's written on, the borrower, the down payment. There's several factors that kind of give it its value. So there are some strong points to it, as you can tell, where the collateral is really strong. It's really high in value. And there's other parts of this deal that are a little bit weaker. Interest rate could be a little bit better. The term could be stretched out a little longer. You don't see that on this page, but this borrower is not paying through a traditional loan servicing company where it's third-party vetted. They're paying directly to the seller. So you take them for what their word is worth. But if it was with a third-party seller, right, you could obviously vet the unpaid balance to where you know it's true and accurate. So there are just little nuances about this note that didn't give it its full value as far as someone wanting to pay $61,018 for it.
Yeah, it's not the investment grade factor. This isn't banking level investment grade.
Right.
This isn't a Fannie Mae loan. There's not the documentation. It's not handled in such a manner. And so there's nothing wrong with it, but when you take it to the secondary market, it's going to be traded at a discount.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about that. There's old Eddie Speed doing this a long time ago.
Eddie, I had to throw that one in there, dude. Oh, yeah.
One thing that I think Joe and I take pride in our teaching, and Brian and our teaching, is that we've done this. We're not some guru teaching about some concept that we don't do, and we're as active buying notes today as I've ever been in my career, and so that's pretty critical to me. It makes us real, right? All right, so I used to have a saying, Justin. You've heard me say it many times. A salesman's job is to deliver bad news. So everything's good until you tell them what the price is for the note, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right.
You got to work your way to it.
You carved in a decent, yield in this, right?
Yes.
You made about almost $5,000.
Yes.
So we gave you a price. Our company bought this note, right? Because we buy notes.
Yeah.
We're actually, it's weird. We have a training business and we actually do the business. It's the funniest thing,
So that's a novel idea, is it not?
Exactly. Yeah. So we priced the note, and then you went back and deducted your commission off of there, your flipping fee, before you gave them the price.
Right.
So sort of simple math here. You're giving them about $42,500 for their note.
Right.
Okay. And they owed 61.
Right.
So let's talk about that. How do you move that customer to something that they're okay with in that idea?
Well, you put it great, Eddie. The salesman's job is to deliver bad news, and it's like you said in the beginning of the conversation. It's a cycle. So you're having a conversation with them from step one. You're not getting all the answers today. You're just prepping them for the next time that you're going to have a follow-up phone call, so you can continue having that conversation with them. And the longer you have that conversation with them, the more likely they're going to end up understanding that it's going to be sold at a discount, and they're going to want to sell it to you. You can't just go to the seller and just tell them all the facts and get all the data in one conversation, go, oh, here's a price. And they're just like, why would I sell that to you? They don't understand why it's discounted. So when you explain it to them, you build that cycle as you talked about.
FaceTime being on the phone, right?
Yeah.
FaceTime with your customer is going to be an ingredient that if you try to eliminate it, you can have the most silver tongue in the world, but you don't have enough relationship with them. What you did is a market condition. You didn't cheat them.
Yep.
This is not a note that trades at 100 cents on the dollar. We didn't pay you 100 cents on the dollar, and we didn't go find the note and spend the marketing effort and all the stuff that you had to go do it. So you didn't mark an unreasonable fee. You made $5,000.
Yeah.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
But you had a value add. And so the customer has to understand that they cooked this pie.
Yeah.
Right. You're only pricing the pie they cooked. That's figuratively speaking, right?
Right.
And so obviously you're talking through it. And the only way that we ever learn to do this, and obviously you've become a champ at it, is that you just got to spend some time with them and make them kind of see who you are as a person and how you do business. And then all of a sudden it's more feasible. So one of the things that one of the things I want to talk about before we get off of that is, how many conversations do you typically have before you lead to the price?
I would say on average, it's 4 to 5 conversations pretty regularly. Rarely does it happen where there's less than 4 conversations, but it's 4 to 5 conversations.
And I assume that you leave a plant from the last conversation that leads you to be the starter of the next conversation.
Yeah, the goal in the negotiation, if you will, that they don't realize there's a negotiation going on, is to dictate the next step or dictate the terms for them. Otherwise, they're not going to take the accountability to call it and be like, oh, well, just call me in a couple of days. Well, don't do that. Say, call me tomorrow at 10 a.m. or I'm going to call you at 10 a.m. And I'm going to look to get this answer from you, whether it's, research the taxes on it or check the insurance for me or show me the deck page. Just give them a little homework assignment.
In other words, you got them checking on something, and then you have a set appointment. You're going to talk to them the next day once they've done that.
Right.
Okay, that's cool. That's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how you do it and get a good closing ratio. All right, I want to go back to so let's just talk about we got all the parties here. Joe's got some really cool slides here. So Justin, if you can see that, kind of describe who's what and how it fits.
All right, so the note seller is the person that I'm advertising to from my direct mail campaign. I'm talking with them on the phone. A good-looking note flipper with that business tie is me, right? And that funding source is Eddie's group here. I happened to sell this loan to Eddie, but it could have been a different bank, could have been a different hedge fund or a capital partner or a private investor
Right.
itself. So that would be the funding source, the person that's putting up the dough.
Yep.
So conversations with the seller, this can happen two different ways. I could actually fund the deal and I could flip it to the funding source as well. Or in most cases, it happens the funding source is actually the one that has the money, that transfers the money over to the note seller when you close. And then the note seller gets their share. And then I also get a fee for what I worked in on the deal. So the funding source in this case sold it. They bought it for $47,500, and I negotiated with the seller of the note to $42,500. So obviously there's a $5,000 difference, and that's what comes to me from the funding source. So the funding source is paying $47,500. I'm getting $5,000, and the note seller is getting $42,500 in that case.
You set your own salary.
I'm sorry?
You set your own salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the ultimate in the entrepreneurial relationship, right? You have a trusted party on either side. You're not being unreasonable with them.
Right.
But you're saying, hey, I'm bringing value to the table. You know what you're going to sell it for before you have to price it. So you're not like blindly just throwing out a number.
Right.
And Joe, man, you laced it up here with that slide.
Isn't that, well, that's just the way it is, right? Justin's got that big S on his chest. So, that's super Justin.
Super Justin. That's
Like
it.
that. I'd have just been standing around.
Justin, how many, you've done a couple of these in the past couple of years, hadn't you?
Yeah. When I first started after 2016, that's primarily how I sourced my deals, was through direct mail. I don't do direct mail as much anymore, but that's was a part of me growing into what we'll call a master broker.
Yeah, that's great. And you have turned into where you have a nest of investors. You don't just sell to us,
Right.
but obviously we've got a good trusted relationship with you. And we when we're a fit, we get to buy. And when somebody else is a fit, you get to do business with them,
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, you are a good example of a real estate investor reinventing themselves,
Mhm.
because you went into an excessively competitive market,
Yeah.
flipping houses, right?
Little did I know. Right.
Now you've entered an excessively not competitive market, because the truth be told, there's 100,000 seller finance notes created a year. And there's a few dozen guys like you in the business that are out there hammering it. And it's not any more crowded than that. Am I exaggerating?
No, you're not. And that's how I explain to people what I do and why I'm in the note business, is exactly that reason. I go against the grain. When everyone is running this way, I'm going that way. And that's kind of how I've always been. Just internally, that's how I'm wired. And I like that. It's not really a lot of competition. It's more collaboration with other note investors that I know and that I partner with on deals as well.
One last question.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody that's where you were in 2016? What would you tell them?
I would say, well, a couple of things. I would say, stay disciplined, stay the course of what you want to do, and you'll get there. It's not something that gives you a success overnight. It's a longer play, but it's definitely a wealth building tool to where a lot of these deals that you have, it can turn into cash flowing investments for yourself in the future. So you just got to stay the course and just continue to move forward with it. And you'll eventually look back and realize, man, I got several notes in my portfolio now because of all this work that I've done. So
yeah, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's great advice. That's every entrepreneur endeavor starts out with somebody that stays focused on the course.
Yeah.
The success path is always going to lead to that.
Yep.
Joe, what you got there, Captain?
Well, Justin, I'm sure people are kind of wondering and saying, Justin, how many deals have you done in the last couple of years?
I want to say over 80.
Yeah.
Over 80, yeah.
Over 80 deals like this, and you made kind of an average of what?
I think when we did the math, it was somewhere close to $4,000 a deal. We'll call it a fee income transaction.
Yeah. Well, Eddie, I think that dog will hunt, right?
Well, the other thing that I happen to know is that you have also stayed focused on not just flipping notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Your note flipping business has allowed you to become an investor. So you also have a portfolio.
Yep.
Right. So it's like you're not just flipping notes, but your note flipping business has created the environment where you can go add these other dimensions to it.
Absolutely. We'll call it seed money so I can build a crop.
That's great. All right, Joe, take us home here, Pat.
All right. So good job, Justin. Thanks so much. You've been that guy, right? And Justin was in a market with a lot of fix and flippers, right? A lot of wholesalers, right? And now you're one of those guys that they look up to in your market, and you always looked up to them, right?
Yeah. Kind of weird how the tables turned.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. Good job, man. We're proud of you, dude. Very proud of you.